So, short video this week, but I just wanted to talk about one of the most interesting NBA careers that we are probably going to see of all time, and that's going to be Victor Wembanyama. And that's not really a hot take whatsoever. But in the 3 seasons we've had with Wemby so far, there has already been a lot of interesting narratives that have come up. In this video, I'm going to be focusing on two of those narratives, the ones that happened most recently. First, Wemby winning unanimous Defensive Player of the Year, and second, Wemby literally just getting a concussion and being under concussion protocol for the next couple of games. Because I think that is going to be the perfect story of Victor Wembanyama when all things are said and done. In a similar vein to other big time, well, big men such as Joel Embiid and Anthony Davis in most recent memory, these are guys that have all NBA talent. These are guys that at some points in their respective careers, they've been top 10, top 5 players in their respective seasons. And they have also dealt with a lot of injuries. Granted, I actually think of the three, Wemby is not only the most healthiest, but he is the most disciplined, both in his conditioning and the care he takes towards his body. I know it's a bit of a joke to say that Wemby kind of shaved his head bald and went to go train with monks, but something's working for the guy. Though at the same time, I think that these injury concerns are very concerning to me because Wemby does feel like a genuine generational talent, both from the skills, his just pure kind of athletics, his physical characteristics that you just can't train on paper. And even then, he doesn't fully rely on his size and just kind of his skill to win these games, to find the drive and motor to push through. Wemby genuinely loves the game. I mean, people were talking about how he saved All-Star Weekend just because he is a guy who really cares, especially on the defensive end of things. But at the same time, when you're looking at an NBA where there are 65 game rules put in place, you wonder to yourself how many games can, or how many seasons rather, can Wemby win awards? For example, you could have made a case that in 2025, Wemby should have been a front runner for the Defensive Player of the Year. And he unfortunately didn't get it because he had injuries. I don't know if that was the blood clotting year, but to have an injury like that or kind of a diagnosis like that so early on in your career, it's a little concerning. I mean, the most recent and I guess well known blood clotting kind of issue I can think of is Chris Bosh in like the 2010s, where his were so bad, and granted he was in his 30s, that he literally had to end his career. Now, it doesn't look like Wemby is going to be impaired in that same vein, but these are concerns for, your taller players. But it's also undeniable that Wemby has been a phenomenal talent these first 3 seasons. Not only is he one of the youngest defensive players of the year, but as I've already mentioned, he is the first unanimous defensive player of the year. And that's really saying something, even if you want to push the idea that, these awards are narrative focused. And I guess really my main focus is that with Wemby getting concussed in this Portland series, or regardless of whatever other injury he might get during this playoffs, you hope that that's not going to be the case. But I'm a little concerned that if the Spurs underperform, and by underperform I mean don't win a championship, don't make a finals appearance, or even a conference finals appearance this year, the team might genuinely just look at their roster and say, yeah, the only reason we didn't win was because Wemby got hurt. And that's kind of a dangerous thing to be put in place because, yes, this is a good Spurs team. That guard rotation of Harper, Fox, and Castle is one of the better guard rotations kind of in the league right now. But especially defensively, like that is a really good defensive core. But I think the big concern I have is that I don't know if this is the best team for Wemby. Like if this team is really built around what Wembanyama needs. Now again, I think that's kind of a loaded conversation to have because really what's the question? Like what does Wemby need to not only be a contender, but to achieve that kind of coveted dynasty status, to become a generational great where you're going to be in contention conversations every year for the rest of your career and win more than one championship. We haven't seen it done yet in this 2020s kind of era. OKC has a good chance at doing it, but there is a genuine case that San Antonio could stop them if things fall in place. And really, like when you look at it from that lens, OKC in my eyes has a bit of an edge. And again, I'm saying that where I'm more of a San Antonio fan. I like Wemby more than I like SGA. But there is a, recognition, at least in my eyes, that the Spurs aren't that good of a 3-point shooting team, whereas OKC, they live and die by the three ball. Yeah, like the San Antonio Spurs are a 36% 3-point shooting team, putting up about 38 attempts a night, whereas Oklahoma City is kind of actually in a similar vein where they are putting up 38 attempts again, but they're doing it at nearly 36.5 to 37% from behind the arc. And you could say, well, that's just a 1% difference. That shouldn't really matter. But it does matter a lot when, you're kind of looking at a playoff picture where you are more in the kind of roots of how to win these games. These become matches that are more X's and O's. You're specifically building to kind of beat the same team over and over again in a series. And, I love Castle, I love Fox, I love Harper, but none of these guys really scream genuine 3-point threat. Now, that's not to say that they don't have positive upside. I think the thing we saw with San Antonio and why they did so well against OKC this year was just because they have really good perimeter defense alongside Wemby's just amazing interior defense. Think about it a lot like the 2019-2020 Utah Jazz, where like you had Rudy Gobert as this like defensive anchor on the inside, and then you had guys like Royce O'Neal, Donovan Mitchell, Mike Conley. Was Mike Conley there? No, not Mike Conley. Mike Conley was on the Grizzlies. But Joe Ingles, like, right? Was it Joe Ingles? You get what I'm saying. Like these guys probably weren't the best defenders, but they were able to supplement Gobert's defensive presence by being, just on the perimeter, present, and in that way. And in many ways, San Antonio is basically being able to mimic that and some, because Castle is a great defender. He is a 6'6" guard. Fox, I think, is only 6'3", but he's a well-known good perimeter defender. Dylan Harper, he might be the worst at the three, but again, the hustle is there, the intent is there. It makes sense. Sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought, but what I'm trying to say is that if the San Antonio Spurs underperform this year, I don't want them to just run it back. As we saw with this Portland game, they have a good team, but I think there are still one or two moves you can make to make it better. I don't know, maybe I'm still kind of stuck on that Milwaukee kind of mindset that if they're going to trade Giannis this offseason, because it's looking like that's going to be more likely than not what's going to happen, I would still really like to see Giannis in San Antonio, as crazy as that sounds. You could throw them a ton of picks. You don't really got to give up too many young guys. Harper or Castle should be plenty, and San Antonio fans are going to hate that. But you can't tell me that a front court of Giannis and Wemby and like Luke Cornett coming off the bench is not going to be the greatest front court we have ever seen. And Wemby wants to shoot threes, so you're basically giving Giannis an upgrade from Brook Lopez to probably a top 10, top 15, top 20 player of all time who is like 10 years his senior. Not 10 years his senior, 10 years his junior. Like, and I don't know. I'm not saying that Giannis is the answer or that they have to make a Giannis trade. I'm just saying, like, I feel that when I look at the San Antonio team, there are moves that you can make that can really shape things up. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. There's definitely more I wanted to talk about, but I kind of do these videos more stream of conscious. By the way, speaking of Milwaukee, I just wanted to shout out the Bucks. They were an awful team this year, but 39 attempts and they were shooting 39% from three. That is insane and surprising why they suck this year. So yeah, this has been Above the Net. Please consider subscribing, and I will see you all next time.